Well, we are live, and good evening, everyone, and welcome to Environmental Coffee House. I am going to bring up Nick and add him in. Hi, Nick. How are you?
Hello.
Oh
I'm doing
boy,
well.
it's
How are
been a
you?
while. I am here with you, and we have a great bunch of people out there. And Happy New Year, or better New Year, as I was saying to everybody, because I haven't seen you since we did the show. I thought we were going to do one more, but we didn't. All right, let me stick our names up there and be all kinds of fancy. Tell everybody, how are you?
I'm doing well. It's been a kind of a hectic couple of weeks. Been working a lot and doing stuff with the family, and I'm
Well,
just
that's
trying
okay.
to not. Yeah, that's okay. It's good. It's
Yeah,
good
you have
time. It's
family.
making
I've been
money,
alone.
so
I
uh,
haven't seen anybody. But
so it's been
so
good.
yeah.
Yeah, it's been a
Hey,
good start to
Karen.
the new year for me. So
All right. Good. Good, good, good. Oh, look, I got my first compliment. My hair looks great. That's because I washed it. Remember, we're in a pandemic. I don't go out a lot. I just go, foo, foo, I don't wash it. There's the secret. Well, thank you guys. I always like to make the joke how I dressed up to come from the bedroom to the office, and then go back to the office bedroom. Nick, you're out there in the workforce every
yeah,
day.
yeah,
What's it like?
yeah.
What's it like being out there again? It was a while you were doing all this online.
Yeah. It's been definitely a change. I haven't had full time employment in about 4 years. I
Wow.
had a job and got laid off from it, and hadn't been able to find anything like it since until mid October. So I work for a company that does genetic animal testing for like various things for like different breeds and different genetic
That's pretty wild.
issues related to disease and other things. So
Yeah.
I work in sample reception. So when the samples come in, I prep them and work them for the for them to be sent to DNA extraction for testing. So that's kind of my job. I work 40-hour work week. Lately, it's been more like 45, 47
You
hours.
are the
But
mad scientist.
yeah,
Kind of like but it is not meteorology, which is your passion. But at least the good thing about meteorology is that you still have it as your passion, your hobby. Like this is my hobby, my
yeah,
passion, and well, my
yeah,
hobby is to promote your work and what you do. So I'm so happy you're here. We've got a lot of great people. Hi, Chuck Diesel. I see him all over. He is in the chats all the time. I'm so happy. I start out the morning with Ben Dixon and the clickety trap. Wait, clickety bait. He'll tell me. I start out the morning with those guys, and then through the day doing stuff, I
yeah,
get the headphones on and I listen to different shows. So by the afternoon, you're so worked up. You're
yeah,
so worked up. I mean, I have that one picture of I wanted to show before we go into science and all. I wanted to show this picture because actually, what is it? I mean, it's what we all know, right? In
yeah. The most dangerous
1963,
animal in the world.
yeah, the most dangerous animal in the world. Here we are. My God, we could leave this right between us all night long. Here we are, the two most dangerous animals, Nicholas and Sandy. We're dangerous because we're arming you with information. We are dangerous because, well, he is teaching. I'm just, I'm here along for the ride, right, with all of you. So we have Raza's here, and Raza was on with us the other night. He's from the UK. Yesterday, when we did the show on what was going on in DC, Raza came on and gave us the perspective. It was really interesting, Nick, because they don't have any
Hmm.
guns in the UK, and
Yeah.
so, and well, what did you say to me earlier? You said, and then there's climate change. That's still
Oh
going
yeah.
on.
Yeah.
Yep,
Still going on.
still going on.
Yeah.
So, and that's what we're here for tonight.
And yeah, it's kind of interesting when you think about it. I think I may have talked about this in our Day of the Climate show, but it's like you're being hit by by waves of events that are progressively worse, and sometimes you get less bad events, but they're still bad, and then you get a big wave, and that's really what's been happening with climate change being the big wave that continues to grow, and then you get hit with COVID, and you get hit with political, mostly far right instability, and chaos, and I mean it's pretty crazy what we're seeing here in the 21st century.
Yeah, crazy. I think I'm going there. Crazy. Uh, well, I'm on the peripherals right now of what's going on in the environment and climate change, even though I
It's
have
funny,
been,
I am too.
yeah, because you're working so
Yeah,
much. It's
I know.
terrible, and you have your Patreon, which I thought you did a very nice job with encapsulating the year of 2020. I mean, there was a lot
Oh
that
yeah,
happened,
yeah.
so you're still. It's not like
Mm-mm.
you've given up your passion. It's just life happens. And for
Yeah.
everybody that's sitting here in our chat tonight, there's 48 people with us so far. Trish and For the Biosphere and Osama and Kim, Life and TCR, Chuck Diesel, awesome Chuck Diesel. Life happens. Shit happens. But
Yeah.
but it is our responsibility to communicate the things that our audience doesn't have time to learn for themselves when here you are. So, where would you like to start? Which calamity or predicament on the planet this week would you like to start with?
Well, I think one of the biggest things happening right now is the La Nina cycle, which, for many of you know, the El Nino La Nina cycle is something that is occurring continuously over a
Yeah.
course of time scales of a year, 2 years. You get abnormally warm water that builds up in the central and eastern Pacific, and that's caused by a weakening of the trade winds that go from east to west in the tropics, and that's the El Nino phase. And and then the La Nina phase is when you have the opposite. You have strengthening easterly trade winds, and you get this upwelling of cold water from deep beneath the eastern Pacific, rises up, and that cool water spreads westward, and the warm water gets restricted to the western Pacific. And both these patterns, dramatically alter the extremes that places around the world face over the course of a season or two. And right now we're in the La Nina phase, a fairly strong La Nina. Uh, you wouldn't know it if you look at global temperatures because 22nd or the warmest year on record. But regardless of that, you have this pattern in place that's producing all these extreme conditions around the world. You're seeing intense drought in parts of the Southwest U.S. and much of the West and the plains. You're seeing heavy rainfall in parts of the Western Pacific, and we may see some cold, areas of cold, extreme cold spread out of Canada into the northern U.S. as we go into the winter time. So I mean, it's a pattern that's normal. It's very normal to have La Nina El Nino swings every year, every couple of years. But obviously, climate change makes droughts worse, makes other
Yeah,
extremes worse.
sure it
So
does.
that's what you get.
I wanted to ask you about Sudan, what you know about Sudan.
I don't know anything that's about what's happening recently in Sudan, so you have to
Okay.
bring me up to speed.
Well, while you do that, I'll find what it was. Okay. And
Okay.
I think no, I think it's right that they're having floods, and it. Who sent it to me now? It made me. I'm gonna look it up.
Yeah, I heard about some flooding in parts of South America. I
All
can't
right.
remember where, but I mean, like, trying to think if I
Don't
heard
feel
about was going
bad.
to hear about Sudan, but
I'm looking it
yeah,
up.
been so many individual events happening
Oh,
around the
here it
world. It's hard to
is.
keep up with.
Yep.
times.
And I'm
Of
going to bring it up. This
while you
is,
look for that,
yeah, I
okay,
got it. I got it. I think the 2020 floods, but this, I hope I can show everybody. It is the deadliest in a century, but this was in September, but it's still they're devastated. The people are devastated. So in September, it was awful, and but it's still going on. And I
yeah,
can't find the article that it was, but the White Nile and the Blue Nile rivers are Sudan's lifeblood. Heavy rains, however, have transformed them into a force for a calamity. More than 100 are dead, and 500,000 are homeless in the worst flooding in at least a century. And Nicholas, nobody's talking about this. 500,000 homeless in the middle of a pandemic. And I just wanted to
yeah,
bring it up because the pictures, they were very upsetting. And although I am like kind of like it just, oh, look. But you
yeah,
see, even if the waters have receded, this is Sudan. Look at these beautiful people. It's just, and this is still going on. Homeless
yeah.
people. How
The
do they have
rainy
any money to
season,
rebuild?
yeah, the rainy season in East Africa and parts of India and Southeast Asia this year have been just crazy. I
Killing
mean,
me.
and that's actually part of the La Nina cycle. You get these enhanced
It hurts.
precipitation patterns in that part of the world. However, I mean, long term, climate change has a role to play in making precipitation events, heavy precipitation events,
Right.
worse. We're getting more 2 inch, 3 inch, 4 inch an hour rainfall events, and prolonged. And some parts of the world, you're also seeing prolonging of the rainy season and a shortening of the dry season. So the dry season might become, well, actually, no, the other way around. You're getting a shorter wet season, but it's heavier rain.
It's heavier
So
rain
shorter dry,
to do
yeah, but it's
this.
heavier rain. Yeah, but then you get the dry season that's longer and more pronounced as well. So you're getting extremes both in the duration, either way of duration, but
Killing.
then more extreme activity in that duration. It's very strange.
This is what it looks like
Yeah, I
now.
mean,
And
yeah, that's
but that's
devastating.
500,000 people. Okay, we've lost,
Yeah,
how many people have we lost from COVID?
it's hitting like
Three.
350 or
All right,
370,
so
something like that. Yeah,
370 million have died, but 500,000 they have no place to live. It's just
yeah,
terrible. And you know what? It's going to get worse, isn't it? So this is not going to stop. And I mean,
yeah. I
all
mean,
right, Miss Negativity, yeah, but this is what's happening.
that is reality. I mean, it's going to get
It's
worse. I mean,
reality.
you can't have global temperatures rising. And I mean, that's the thing. These normal patterns, like La Nina, like El Nino, like some of these other what we call teleconnections, these large scale climate patterns, they're
It
normal
hurts.
patterns. They cause extremes, but the extremes are exacerbated by climate change in the background, and it makes them so much worse. The rain gets heavier, the drought gets
Yeah.
drier, the storms get more violent. I mean, we've seen that the past few years in the Atlantic basin. I mean, just look at all these storms like Irma and Maria and Puerto Rico. I mean, they're prime examples of events that can be Michael in Florida Panhandle. Events that can
Mm-hmm.
absolutely devastate, um, and they were become more frequent and more
But
intense in
and
nature.
it's coming to a town near us. People say,
Yeah,
oh,
I
it's the
mean,
Sudan. This is never on the mainstream media. All the fucking drama in our stupid country is, but this is never on the mainstream media. And
not in the
this,
United States. No,
all this shit, all this shit is going to come to us. And are we going to be ready, Nicholas, with whatever, everything you know?
uh, no, we're
No.
definitely not ready. Definitely not ready. I mean, it's we can barely hang out. I mean, and it's not just like the existing technologies we have or don't have to try to mitigate or adapt to climate change. It's the will to actually do it. I mean,
Well,
we can't
yeah.
even handle COVID in the United States. I mean, COVID is a good litmus test for a nation to whether it can handle a prolonged disastrous event that comes in waves. Because I mean,
Yep.
that's what COVID is doing. It's coming in waves, hitting waves. Yeah, I'd rather be New Zealand or than the United States right now. You can tell which societies, which cultures are just handling it better, and that is a great example of what nations and cultures will that will handle climate change to the best of its ability will be doing. And the United States is not showing itself to be a country that's going to handle climate change
Mm-mm.
very well at all. And
No.
like you
And
said,
I was supposed to
I was
do
just,
the call with the climate mobilization tonight, and I completely forgot. Now, that's an organization that I could see working on the local level and at least to prepare people locally. You know how towns have their disaster plans? Well, this
yeah,
was what, this is more of this is, of course, a more extreme disaster plan because towns need to wake up. Cities, counties, they all need to realize this is that a climate mobilization. So anyway, I missed the call. So what kind of activist am I? I can't even get it together to remember anything. I remembered we had a show tonight. But hi Heidi. Yes, yes, yes. This is nice to see all of you. But yeah,
well, a great
Nicholas,
example of. I was just going to say a great example of a disaster coming near you is like the floods we had in Nebraska a couple of years ago, actually.
yeah, remember we did shows on
Um,
it.
Gosh, was that just in 2019? Yeah, the time is flying so
Yeah, we
fast.
were
It
doing shows
wasn't
on
very
it. We
long
were
ago.
worried about you and all the pig
Yeah,
shit flowing
yeah.
down the. Yeah, we were
But I
talking
mean,
about all that.
Lincoln avoided the flooding, direct flooding impact,
Yeah.
but we had water restrictions here in town because our wells got flooded and the electrical facilities that pump up the water got damaged.
Jesus.
That means it's just like people don't realize just how frail the infrastructure really is to the wrath of nature. It can be that way without climate change, but with climate change, you're talking about electrical grid, you're talking about nuclear
Yeah.
power plants, talking about your food and crops, and not only the crops themselves being exposed to the extremes, but also just the technology that you use to harvest the crops being damaged and destroyed. And yeah, I mean, people don't realize just how fragile civilized world really is until it's taken out by nature, by the wrath of nature.
Well, of course. Biosphere says extreme weather is coming as a derecho near you. Yes, a
Yeah.
derecho. Púntale. Yeah, we're going to have a derecho. All right. Hello, one chat. One of the most scary blind spots is food production. We want to bring you into the conversation a little, guys, tonight because it's just me and Nick, so it's an open forum. We don't really have anything super planned. So if you guys have questions, just put a Q, and then I'll get not queuing on either. Q question, not queuing on. I've
Don't
been.
want
Oh
any of
my
those
god.
people on here.
No, we don't want to. No, we don't want. We just want a queue. Nick, have you do have some screenshots you sent me, and maybe you want to talk about a little bit about, if I throw something up, and then you want to talk about what's around that.
Yeah, yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yeah, we can do that.
All right. Don't sound so enthused.
I know, I know. I'm
You're
not enthusiastic.
tired. Listen, we got to give him a pass. The poor baby's tired. And you know what? Are you listening because is your son up in the background? He's not up then. He went to sleep.
No, no, he's not
Okay.
up. Yeah, he went to
Awesome.
sleep.
Just be quiet. All right. So, Ezra Silk. Yes, she's talking about the climate mobilization. I missed the call tonight. I'm so pissed off, Heidi. All right, Nick. So, what would you like me to throw up first?
Maybe we can talk a little bit about the stratosphere. There's you can bring up that image that shows the stratosphere polar vortex
Is
if
that
you
the blue
wish.
one? No, that's not the blue
Yeah,
one. Oh,
it
I
should
hate
have
this.
like two vortices on it, two vortexes,
Well, we're going to
one with the
look.
tro-
I'm going to
hmm
see. This one? No, that's temperature. I always do this because I.
Yeah,
This
there we
one.
go.
All right, it's
Yeah,
not great. And
yeah,
I'm
none
going
of
to. I'm going to take
the
myself
images are
out.
that big. So,
It's okay. You can
but
talk
yeah,
now. Go for it.
okay, yeah, but so basically, right now there's a stratospheric warming event going on, and those warming events impact mid latitude weather in the northern hemisphere and the southern hemisphere when it happens in the southern hemisphere. Um, Basically, what's happening is that, or what causes it, is you have these large scale waves in the atmosphere, planetary waves called Rossby waves. And when they amplify vertically into the upper atmosphere, and sometimes that can happen because they impact a mountain range like the Himalayas, a really tall mountain range, or you have really intense high pressure systems that push air high up into the atmosphere. What can happen is that it can those waves, those Rossby waves, can break like waves in an ocean, and they can break over the stratospheric polar vortex, forcing that vortex to weaken, and it can weaken such that it may reverse or it may
Wow.
split. You get a
Really?
vortex split, yeah, and that
Ooh.
results in um, air um, being forced down in altitude from high altitude to lower altitude, and air that comes down in altitude rapidly warms. It's called adiabatic warming, and that warming can spike temperatures in the stratosphere, and
Damn.
you get this stratospheric warming event. And the warming of the stratosphere for it causes a response in the troposphere, the lowest level of the atmosphere where most of Earth's weather occurs, and that
Okay,
leads
the
to disruption of
troposphere.
that. Yeah,
Most of our weather is in the troposphere. Okay.
yeah,
Just
yeah,
I get sometimes I mix them up.
yeah. It's the troposphere is the lowest level of the atmosphere, and then you have the ozone layer just above that, and then the stratosphere.
Yeah.
Those are the layers, and there's other layers above that, but those are the most consequential ones for
And we've
weather.
pretty much screwed every one of them up.
Yeah, yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah, we have.
yeah. The stratosphere is actually getting colder because the most of the heat is being trapped in the troposphere because of carbon dioxide. So it's kind of an interesting effect. But you do get this um, response by the troposphere, and the polar vortex can also weaken and split the tropospheric polar vortex, and that can cause um, cold waves to spread into the mid latitude. So you get these polar vortexes they call them that
Yeah.
spread into North America, spill a lot of cold air out of the Arctic into North America, into Siberia, continental Siberia, but that also allows very warm air to spread into the Arctic. And we've seen those events happen a few years ago, 2016, 17, 18, I think, too. You had these polar vortex splits and all this cold, very cold air spilling out of the Arctic
Yeah,
to
everybody was
very
talking
warm
about
air
that.
pouring into
We
the,
were.
yeah. And I mean, you had ice melting in the Arctic in February, in late January and early February. I mean, it was
Yeah.
crazy. And I remember, I think it was early 2017, there was actually ice breaking in north of Greenland in early February. It was very, very wild to witness that breaking of sea ice. So that has the potential to happen again. You have the potential with this stratospheric warming again to get disruptions in the polar vortex that may cause cold waves to enter either North America or enter Siberia, and you may have very warm air start pouring into the Arctic. Usually, the response is several weeks after. So we're having the warming event in the stratosphere over the pole right now.
Okay.
So maybe by late January, early February, we'll start to see these increasing disruptions in the jet stream over the mid
So there's
latitudes as we
sort of
go.
a lag
Yeah, there's a
between
lag.
the so is it science and nature weird? There's a lag between not wearing masks and then the breakout.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I don't know why my brain just thought like that. Like there's these
Well,
lags and then the
this is
event.
because the lags are just because it's a process. It's not an instantaneous change. So,
Yeah.
with mask wearing, you get people not wearing masks, infection spreads. Then eventually you get more people getting sick, hospitalized, than deaths. With the polar
Okay.
vortex, you first have to get the spike in warming, then you get the split in the vortex, then you get the response by the troposphere beneath it, then you get the disruption in the troposphere jet stream, and you get the cold waves and the extreme heating of the Arctic. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's a lag of several weeks, but
Is
its
it
potential is there for
also
that to happen.
is that a feedback loop? A big feedback loop?
In its own way, it can be. I don't know. I don't know if it's strictly a feedback loop.
Okay.
It usually um, it's more of a process that whittles its way down over time, a cascade through the
Yeah.
weather system, so to speak, going from the upper atmosphere to the lower atmosphere, from the poles to the mid latitudes. And I mean, although you can get that sort of feedback where you get cold spilling out of the Arctic, warming of the Arctic region as warm air flows into the Arctic, and then melts sea ice, and that can affect things later in the spring when the
Yeah.
ice starts melting as the sun comes up. So yeah, it's an interesting phenomenon. It's still being closely studied, and then I don't think they've really pinned down the effect of climate change on these stratospheric warming events and polar vortex splits, but obviously they cause more chaos to an already chaotic system that's being hit hard by
Again.
climate change.
Yeah. Chaotic systems. I'm extrapolating the chaotic system that is the planet to the chaotic system that is humanity actually right
Yeah.
now. So listen, let's segue to a question. It goes back a little bit when we talk about food several years ago, and it's Kameshwari Kate, who is wonderful. And I read a WHO synopsis of a report that said the Earth has about 64 growing seasons left before growing food is impossible. Any comment?
Oh my goodness.
64. Now that's several years ago. That's, you know, I mean, not that I'm an expert, but I don't
It
know
might.
if you can
I
prognosticate that or not.
Yeah, it's probably. Obviously, I'd have to actually see the report itself, but it's probably based on like the worst case scenario for global warming,
Hmm.
where you would get to the point where you can't. It gets so hot and dry in the mid latitude regions that you can't grow food at global scales that were required to feed global and regional populations. Obviously, if you're getting like 3 to 4 degrees of warming in
Hmm.
just a matter of, and I mean the worst case scenario from the 2013 report, is RCP 8.5. I think it had. I mean, it's still probably very conservative given what we know about feedback loops um, and about some of the recent modeling that's showing faster warming. You'd
Okay.
have to be um, you'd be seeing over degrees of global warming by the 2060s, it's going to start to have, pretty severe impacts on food production in your region, which is about, 60 years from now. So, or,
So we need
well,
to
60
teach our
years will be,
children. Children need to be
2080s, but
taught.
yeah, 40 years from now. So, I
Wow.
mean, it's be pretty bad.
Wow. Okay.
you know.
Well, since it seems like it's question and answer night and you're doing a great job at it, Void has how is global warming affecting the breaking up of the stratosphere? Are the Rossby waves worse? That was going back to
They're
what?
still. I think they're still trying to figure out how global warming is really impacting the stratosphere. They know it's getting colder. The stratosphere is getting colder as the troposphere is warming. Um, how those um, Rossby waves are affecting the polar vortex and ultimately leading to stratospheric warming events. I don't think there's been any solid link made
Rossby
to
waves?
climate change yet, or an understanding of how climate change is affecting it yet. At least I
Okay.
haven't heard anything from some of the scientists out there, like Michael Mann or Jennifer Francis, or some of those
Mm-hmm.
scientists out there that
Cool.
study that stuff very closely.
All right.
But,
Well,
yeah,
Kate said thank you for taking the question. We have a few more. Oh, okay. We had, oh boy. Let's see. Heidi has a couple of questions. I don't know if enough can fit it on the, I'll try. Um, I also wrote a paper about the primates of the Himalayas for my primate behavior class at the University of Southern Maine in Wabanaki Territory in 1990 while earning her BA in anthropology. Question, that was the intro. So I weren't, she said whoop, wait, let me get back up there. And I like that her picture came up. This is great. I love Heidi. I learned that they weren't getting enough, that they weren't getting enough precipitation in the mountains, that it is creating loss of snow in the mountains and thus in the rivers below. So the whole ecosystem was out of balance. So where are we at, or what is happening in the regard to that area today? Do you know the
not
mountains?
specifically, although I mean, there part of the reason is not enough. There's lots of precipitation and also the it's just getting warmer. So a lot of the glaciers are retreating significantly in many parts of the Himalayas. Um, I know for most scientists are pretty worried that most parts of the world will lose its mountain glaciation, its alpine glaciation by the latter half of the 21st century, which it's 2021. It's not exactly
I know.
very far off to think about 2060s, 2070s. You know, time flies, and that's not very long time for climate change. It's very very fast. So
So do you think
the
it'll it,
idea,
it'll extinct the primates in that area, or that it will go faster maybe than
yeah, yeah,
previously
yeah,
expected?
yeah, just because of the loss water, of the water supply, and obviously the there's, well, supposedly smartest primates, the humans that actually live in downstream from all those, from that region, and in the from the Himalayas and India and Pakistan and those areas, and Nepal will have to deal with the increasing restrictions of water in the region. So it's if you think about that region, you could be thinking about the water rising. The ocean's going to be rising. So people are going to be retreating from Bangladesh and many of those areas.
Yeah.
But then you're going to be losing fresh water supply increasingly from the Himalayas. So it's like a 1-2 punch for a lot of people. People are having to escape the rising seas. They deal with all the heat waves, increasing droughts, and then you're losing your water supply because the Himalayan temperatures are retreating as well.
Okay.
That's a terrible, scenario, but that's what's happening here, compounding effects.
I hope, Heidi, that was informative
Good
for you.
question.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was a good question. Um, let's see. People are talking about. Well, we have more. Wait, there was one I wanted to get there. Um, if you give me a second, guys, I'll find it. Oh, I don't like when I can't. Hi, Valdi, Viderpas. A nice positive. Okay, here. Let's go. This looks like a good, interesting one. Uh, a nice positive development is the change in public opinion toward demanding action to save a habitable climate. Yale's Climate Nexus program and George Mason University Center for Climate Change Communication polled 2,047 registered voters on October 27, 2020, and released the findings. And 82% support the statement. The primary goal of U.S. energy policy should be achieving 100% clean energy. 71% support congressional legislation that would set the goal of achieving 100% clean economy. So eliminating fossil fuels.
Yeah.
And all right, so I always say we may not have a good outcome in the long run, but what our friend here is talking about is that there may be political will, and that there'll be things that are always going to be done, and there'll be organizations like the Climate Mobilization
Yeah.
to start. So thank you for that, because
Yeah.
I would imagine this is somebody from
I,
Facebook.
I think there's been a real. I don't know what did it, or if it's maybe like science. It's a process. I think in political politics and political opinion, but I think there's been
Yeah.
a shift in the United States where increasingly more people, both obviously, 70%, 60, 70% of people, you gotta have a bunch of Republicans, where's the Republicans that
They
think
didn't
they're gonna have a good
poll the
too.
Trump people.
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't know.
but
I can't say
I
that.
mean, there's obviously people out there that are increasingly believing the science of climate change. Trusting the science of climate change is real and want to do something about it. And you know, I think the escalation in extreme events, it's starting to really like hit people. Whether it be the wildfires in California, we're just talking about the United States, the wildfires in California, and a couple of years ago in Washington State, or the flooding in Nebraska and Iowa, the derecho in Iowa earlier this year,
Right.
the hurricanes. I think it's starting to like people are actually like visibly noticing the escalation in it, and they want to be able to try to do something about that.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a big deal, because we may not be able to necessarily stop what's already baked into the system just because of the 416 or whatever it is ppm of carbon dioxide we have in the atmosphere, and the methane spewing out, and but we can do things at least about the methane we're spewing out industrially. We can do things
Yeah.
about the carbon dioxide we're spewing out industrially.
We can
We can
try
do
to
something about
eliminate factory farms like where you live, and maybe people will get different employment, and lower the consumption of meat eating is a big thing, and I'm doing it. So, and I feel good
yeah,
about it. I feel really good
yeah,
about it. Yeah. Yeah. And I don't tell anybody what to do. I'm doing this because I needed to try and
yeah,
develop a conscience in a way, and I can't
yeah,
stomach the thought. I mean, I stopped buying factory farm, but I noticed that I lessened my consumption, so maybe it'll be good, for me. But
yeah,
that's something people can do, and there's always that back and forth. Oh, planting trees aren't going to do anything. It's really not the factory farms, and it's but all of these things together, people it gives people something
Yeah.
to come together over, right?
There's nothing wrong with it's like having a disease in your body and doing the things you need to do
Yeah.
to at least slow it down so it doesn't impact your quality of life as much. This is the climate change is the planet's disease. It's one of many diseases that are afflicting the planet caused by humanity's destruction of nature. And attempts to
Yes.
control nature. Um, and we can, but in our just like we've done so much damage in our attempts to control and dominate nature,
God.
we can also do things to retreat from that to try
There
to
you
slow
go.
down the damage that is actively being done
Bingo.
by the feedback loops and stuff like that. So it's not so we can have a better quality of life, and not just humans, obviously, but other plants and
Yeah.
animals on the planet.
You know,
So
I don't have the visual, but it kind of sometimes reminds me of the how they showed the caveman always pushing that big boulder up the hill.
yeah,
I mean, that's what we're going to be doing, but it's worth pushing. It's good for your
yeah,
arms.
yeah,
I got a question from For the Biosphere. And please ask Nick about his thoughts on the Blue Ocean event happening this summer. And if it does indeed occur, how will it exponentially affect weather feedback loops? Everybody always asks that question, and it's always a process. But have you read
yeah. I
anything?
mean,
I mean, are you
I just be absolutely honest. I have no idea when if we define the blue ocean event. First, you have to define what it is. If
Yeah,
we're
we
talking
always do
about
this
it,
every
you know,
show. Uh huh.
yeah. I mean, if we're defining it quantitatively as like, oh, there's a
It
1
happens
million or less
tomorrow.
cubic
Doesn't happen
kilometers
tomorrow.
of ice in the Arctic over the course of maybe a week or something like that. Um, you know, when will that happen? I have no idea. It could happen
Right.
this I guess this year now,
But thank you
2021. It
for the
could happen
question for the
10 years.
biosphere because it
Yeah,
always makes everybody's
yeah,
concerned about the Arctic and the BOE because we know that it's going to affect our weather in a much more adverse way. And it's also going
yeah,
to affect the greedy humans that are going to push through and with their big ships. And I know Russia is chopping at the bit to drill. They're so behind the times.
yeah. I mean,
They are really
the
passe.
the now as far as the effects the BOE would have, if it's relatively brief, probably not dramatic, but as it becomes, over the course of several years, increasingly more longer in duration over,
We're
months,
live. Yeah,
then then obviously it's going to have impacts on the jet stream, the position of the polar vortex, more over Greenland than over the central Arctic. The the jet stream will be reoriented such that you're getting a lot more heat pumping into the Arctic, and that's a feedback loop as you lose
that's
sea
the
ice,
feedback.
bigger storms and stuff in the Arctic basin. Um, and so, I mean, and obviously there may be effects that I can't imagine either that I just don't know. It's an
Well,
unknown
Paul
because it's never
does.
happened
Paul
before.
Paul's still doing those, right? Scott
Yeah, he
says
still
Paul
does
is,
those.
and
He's
we all
writing
like
about
to
it.
we all support each other and Paul does
Mhm.
his thing and you do your thing from a meteorological viewpoint, and that is why we are such a great community with the voices, all the voices in this community. Um so let's go to another one of the slides, and maybe you want to talk about one more of the graphics.
Sure. Yeah. Maybe you could talk about the drought.
And
That's
that is the blue one. No, that's cold. I always do this, temperature. I always do this because I don't label them.
Um,
Ah, last is a
Fine.
charm.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, yeah. Obviously, if you're in the anywhere in the Western U.S. outside of Western Washington, you're experiencing a lot of drought right now, and this is partly due to La Nina. It's sort of a La Nina type pattern where you get heavier precipitation and and heavier precipitation and snow in the mountains in the Pacific Northwest and dry conditions across the southern U.S., particularly the Southwest, and that's what's happening right now. And I mean, we've been having drought even in here in Nebraska, as you can see, for past several months. It's been rather strange because we've had some rainfall, some snow, but it's just not never enough to make up the deficits that we have. And it's been really, really bad in Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado, Utah, and this will probably persist through the spring into spring. Hopefully this pattern breaks by summer because obviously you don't want to be dealing with summer and fall this year with potentially devastating fire season because of a prolonged drought that just killed trees and left them, dry sticks to be burned easily in the 2021 fire season. That's something we have to watch out for. But yeah, that's definitely a major deal in the Southwest U.S. right now is the drought. Sandy, I can't hear you right now. I'm not sure if something
Oh, I muted
happened.
myself. Sorry, no,
Oh,
I
okay.
muted myself because I was behind the picture. No, let me bring it up again. I was looking at my yellow for the
Yeah,
drought,
yeah,
but I
yeah, a little
can't
bit of
quite
drought.
see the the
Yeah,
the
it's
the,
just it just means
the scale.
abnormally dry. Yeah,
So we on the East Coast. I always tell everybody, come on, well, come to the East Coast where anywhere like from where I am and up towards Maine and those are going to be, I think, well, people are coming. I know it. I want to
yeah,
quickly go by. There was something that, oh, it was good. It was good. It was good. And it's hard sometimes because I lose these. Oh, it was beautiful. Microsoft technical support. I stand by what I said earlier. We need to reorient humans to adapt in every sense. I agree with that. Nick would agree with that. In the schools, everything has to be radically
yeah,
changed, but it is the political will to radically change it. And that's why these organizations are so worthwhile to get involved in. People still have kids and they have to learn. And I agree with you there, Microsoft technical support. I have to go to his page. Um, yeah. All right.
yeah.
So it's a good
It's
conversation. Hi,
true.
Basil.
I mean, it's true. You need kind of a radical change in terms of thinking about the world around us as not something to be cherished and not exploited. And I think that's a big deal. And it's it's just something that is not really ingrained in most people, and I mean it's getting even though most Americans I think are getting increasingly concerned about climate change and about environmental damage and things like that. These effects of humanity on nature, it's
Yeah.
still not
Nature, the animals.
quite clicking that you need to actually change how you are with nature in order to protect nature, and that includes changing how you think about nature, not as something to be cherished and not exploited.
Oh, boy. I got involved in the chat for a minute because if that's who I think it is, hey, welcome. Yeah, all right, let's go on. And I'm sorry, Nick. Sometimes I get involved in this chat, running the chat, and then I forget where we are. Oh, here, Tina. The problem is that while we have adaptability, our habitat may not be able to adapt in time.
Yeah,
And that's
yeah.
always
I mean, when you're talking about like another like 2 to 3 degrees of warming in the next like 40 years, and plastic going into the oceans and wildlife being decimated. I mean, that's a lot of change. That's a lot of devastating change in a short amount of time, and yeah, I mean, it's something that it's difficult to adapt, even for an adaptable species like
yeah.
humans. Yeah.
It is. It is.
Jim McHenry saying 2 years before midterms to do massive climate
Climate
change
change
legislation.
legislation. Oh
Well, I
boy.
mean,
We can be lobbyists. We can just go to DC with little organized little groups and you can walk around the Capitol with appointments to lobby. That's what lobbying should be with no money involved. That's lobbying.
yeah,
But, or now we have to do it online. So we can lobby online, write letters and do
my
all those
my
things.
congressional delegation doesn't believe climate change is real, so
Really, Nebraska's still in the dark ages, huh?
yeah.
With all of the
Or
things that
they,
happen there, everything is just fine and natural and normal in your
yeah,
state.
basically, yeah, yeah.
They just keep electing clueless fucking morons. Jim says plastic will be the new rock layer millions of years from now. Jim, you're not so wrong. Jesus. All right, we have another. Let's look at our other graphics because we have one. Now, do you want to talk about the temperature?
Yeah, that was just um, the stratospheric warming event. So 10 hectopascals is like just really high up in the atmosphere. That's pressure level. But yeah, that's the temperature spike that you see at that level of the atmosphere that's associated with the stratospheric warming event that I was talking about earlier. So that's basically what's been
Okay.
happening in just since beginning of January, which is pretty pretty normal time to see these kind of events. Usually the end of December, beginning of January, you get these intense waves that weaken the stratospheric polar vortex, and you get these spikes and warming up in the stratosphere. So that's what that graph depicts. And
Okay.
the red line, yeah.
All right. Well, we had it, and I thought it was
Mm-hmm.
an interesting one. And I know that how many times have I picked the wrong one? Wait, that one. We just looked at that one. We had one more. We know we had the drought. Oh, this one. The one I really liked. The cold
Oh yeah,
episode relationships. This one I
yeah,
wanted to talk about because it's the cold. Let's talk about this
yeah. That's the
cold
La Nina.
episode relate. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
what you
that's
were
the La
talking about
Nina.
before. That's
Yeah,
pretty interesting the way that the graphic looks. Well, when I make it big, you can see the dry and cool, and then the wet and cool.
hmm,
This is a really cool graphic.
yeah. I like this one. It just basically shows what La Nina, the La Nina phase of the El Nino Southern Oscillation does to the
Cool.
weather in different seasonal weather in
Yeah.
different parts of the world. You get the cool and wet weather in the
Look
Pacific
at
Northwest,
Australia.
Southwest Canada. You get wetter weather in parts of northern Australia and
It's
Indonesia,
red. Phew.
and then you
Yeah.
get cool and dry weather in the eastern Pacific and dry and warm weather in the southern U.S. So that's what's driving the enhancing the drought in southwest U.S. is the La Nina pattern where it's just not getting enough rain in the southwest U.S. and all the rain's going to the Pacific Northwest. And I think they've had some pretty decent rainstorms and windstorms in Seattle and that area that I used to grow up in this year already because of La Nina pattern. So yeah, that's a good map that um,
Oh, I
shows
liked
some of
it.
the changes. Hmm.
Okay, if I could find the question, somebody had asked a question about Brazil, and it was a good one. And it's really hard sometimes to go back. It's like I wish I could just like take the questions out and put them on the side, but they don't have that
Mm-hmm.
technology yet. I don't think. Maybe they do, and I just don't know how to do it. Basically, it was somebody asked about, do you think that they in Brazil, that Bolsonaro and his cronies are cutting down the Amazon to hide the effects of climate change? That was wild.
Yeah. Uh, I
Uh,
don't know. I just don't think they care. It's like again, it's like
Phew.
COVID. They still they don't believe in it. It ain't real. It's whatever, and they just cut down the trees to just
Oh,
for the
here it
sake
is.
of
I
doing
found the
it.
question. Are they purposely burning it up so people can't see what global warming is doing to the equatorial region of the planet? Holy shit.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Mm-mm,
to me,
mm-mm,
I just don't
mm-mm,
think they care.
mm-mm.
I mean, those people, those kind of people, they just don't care
No, it's
about
all about the money, and they.
nature. It's all about money. It's all about um, turning it. I mean, Bolsonaro. I think a couple years ago described the Amazon as a semi desert like region or something.
It's
It's
gonna be
like it's just a
horrible.
no, that's what he called the Amazon as it is now,
Oh
just a
my
bunch of
god.
nothing that can be utilized for human activity. And it's like you're going to turn it into an arid desert like region doing that,
Oh, I have a really weird aside to this, and it's just talking about Brazil, but through my travels, because I'm doing research to do a little documentary, and I
Mhm.
saw that there was a QAnon Brazil, and there were
Wow.
104,000 views on the video. My heart sunk. That just, but we need, you can't get 104,000 views talking about what we are. So,
Yeah.
but
Well, people like
Brazil, and they had
people
they
like
they they had
conspiracies.
Trump as on a pedestal. What is
Yeah.
this? Pretty fucked
I
up.
mean, Trump is his biggest talent of his life is being able to sell himself. I mean, that's literally what he's good at. I mean, he's great at selling
He's a
himself.
whore.
I mean,
Sorry.
yeah, that's literally what he is. He's just amazing at selling himself. I mean,
Well,
it's incredible what he's been able to do. He just, you wish somebody that was on the side of good and the side of not being
wow.
hateful could sell themselves that well. But
Right?
no, but
Well, you
people
know
I think
what?
are attracted. Lots of people are attracted to people like that. People that are abusive towards them. And
Well, it's authoritarian. It's easier to
yeah,
lockstep under authoritarian for a lot of people because they don't have to think much. They go about their life and they're guided and told what to do, and
yeah,
they can have idolatry and worship. But anyway,
yeah,
somebody said that they're firing their scientists that were exposing the truth. That must
oh,
be
in
in Brazil,
Brazil, yeah,
but it
yeah,
was here too.
yeah.
And then Heidi did ask the question about the Biden. That's we can't do this now, Heidi, but I mean it's going to be work I'm going to do on here about the Biden administration and who's going to be picked for each office, and I'll be watching, and I have some theories I'm working on, but it's just too much for tonight. Jim said in 2011 Bolivia passed a law titled The Rights of Mother Earth. I wish that kind of law would fit into the U.S. worldview. Well, there's other countries. Isn't Ecuador and there's many countries that now have said Earth has rights. Not the fucking United States. Corporations have rights. Earth
Yeah.
doesn't.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I mean, in the U.S., in the not only the political mindset, but it's the mindset of people living in the U.S. to think that way, to think about nature as not something to be exploited. When you're having such a good standard of living on the backs of nature, on the back of nature, you have to change your whole mindset, and that's difficult to do. And of course, there's a lot of corporations and corporate very rich Americans that don't want that kind of mindset being brought
No,
in to the picture and the
no,
education at all.
not at all.
Because then people
Can
start thinking for themselves and then don't want them to be so rich anymore. Yeah.
Oh,
So
Bhutan, Bhutan, that's one of those countries that has a an earth. That's a very earth friendly country.
hmm
You want to go someplace and well, we don't want to fly anymore, do we? We want to do all this kind of traveling anymore. Oh my gosh. So where are we at? We are an hour. Wow, this went fast.
yeah,
This
it
went
did.
fast. Um, Mike Olinger, perfect word. Sandy, is that there is no talk ever about climate chaos derived by from weather modification that has been taking place. Nick denies it. Well, it's not denying it. It's we at least don't have any hard and fast proof that the planes are spraying the barium and all that stuff, but the experiments are starting, and that's as far as I'll go. I don't think Nick denies what he doesn't know.
Yeah, I mean,
And Mike, we're not putting you down. Mike's a follower. We love Mike. And Mike is free to have what he thinks, and he shows me stuff all the time. Mike, I wish I had more time to to research that, but you do a good job of it. Fun fact: mining Bitcoin uses more electricity than the Republic of Ireland. Kevin Hester. And you know what? I have a whole thing I've been researching also on Bitcoin and these different online platforms now that want to pay you in Bitcoin. And I have an issue with that, but I'm not researched enough. What do you think, Nick? Do you know much about that?
no, I don't really know a lot about Bitcoin. It seems to be like the trendy thing to do, but
Well,
I
it takes
just,
server farms, even more
yeah,
so than we are using server farms by doing
hmm
what we do with shows and subscribing to these different platforms. We definitely use server farms. But these server farms, from what I understand, and then there's a controversy about it, use huge amounts of electricity. But now
yeah,
supposedly there are solar, uh, you know, uh, uh, I don't know. I don't have all my research done, but anyway, thank you everybody. What would you like to do, Nick? Up, wait. Everybody's bringing up such good stuff. Christian religions are based, of course, on dominating over plants and animals. Our country is riddled with that conscious or unconscious way of thinking. Absolutely. And just let me tack on to that. Let's tax the churches, the big mega churches. Yep, 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 yep. That's right, Jim. Got a lot of friends
yeah,
here, Nick.
yeah. It's very
Up,
true.
we
Very
got another
true.
question. Do you know if Australia is having problems with fire currently?
I haven't heard anything.
No, not
Thought
yet.
I, yeah, I thought I'd heard that they were actually having increased rainfall, so that they weren't having as much problems with fires.
If I had the
But
time, I'd look it up. I don't think that's happening yet. I
you
do
know,
not. And
it should. But
boy, everybody has questions, Nick. For the
yeah,
biosphere, do mainstream weather persons realize that the biosphere is weakening and that it's likely to completely break down before long, regardless of what humans do about it? Like Jeff Bernadelli, that we just recently replayed that interview from 2018, and Nickel, and before he took his master's in climate change,
hmm
and then got the big time out there on NBC.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I think most meteorologists are focused on the weather, so most that I've encountered don't have that big picture um, thinking in terms of climate breakdown as being a biosphere breakdown. But I mean, it's the case. It's true that I mean, because the biosphere responds to the climate and responds to other destructive forces.
I got to promise, Mike, I'm going to look. I'm totally going to look. All right. Well, I'm going to put on our little bit of chill down music. I liked it. The piece I picked for the opening. I liked it. I liked it. So listen, guys, it's been a good show. I've really enjoyed having you here, Nick, and it was time. It was time to come back. And Jacob Gordon says, "Remember, corporations are people." Yeah, yeah, yeah. They sure are. In the United States, we made them people. We made them people. Anybody else? Oh yeah, summer just started underneath in Australia. So yeah, we're going to be watching. It's been over 100 degrees, so it's going to happen anytime. Something up a week ago. See, our audience is wonderful. Hey, thank you. This is awesome. This is awesome. Jim says, "Thank you so much, Nick, Sandy, the whole gang for being here in this time and space. It makes our day." Tanya and Jim, thank you, and you make our day every Friday. Absolutely. Osama, thank you. And channeling Bob Ross, thank you. Whoever Bob Ross is, all due respect there. And Raza, thank you. All right, guys. I'm going to play this, and we're going to just mosey on out, and you guys can unchat yourselves.
Good music.
I'm turning off everything as we go, and the music's going to play, and the chat can chat within themselves. All right? We'll just put on the circle of goodbye, and we'll dance. I've been into that lately. I swear to God, I'll die if I dance. I won't be able to move. Bye, everybody.